Hello, everyone. Welcome back to You Thought You Knew, the podcast where we talk about Survivor players that may be underrated, underappreciated, or just misunderstood. Each episode, we try to answer a question that's designed to make us challenge our preconceived notions about a famous Survivor contestant. Of course, there are no right answers. It's just an excuse to talk about our favorite show. As always, I'm Nigel Bocanegra, your co-host, and I'm joined by my husband, Kevin McLain.
Yes, happy to be here. Our third episode of our third season. And we have a great guest that we even got to talk to in our first season.
Yes, this season 3 of You Thought You Knew is very returney heavy. We're like the knees of Survivor, if you will. But I think it's going a little bit better than the early part of the 20s, at least for Survivor. I'm very glad that we are joined by Mari Forth. Mari, how are you?
Hi, Kevin and Nigel. I'm glad. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Talk a little bit more Survivor. Like you said, it's an excuse to just talk about the show. So thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We're glad that you're able to join us to talk about the one, the only Amanda Kimmel.
The Amanda Kimmel of Survivor China, Survivor Micronesia, and Survivor Heroes versus Villains fame.
As anybody who has been on the internet may have come across at some point.
Yes. And it's very exciting to talk about her. I mean, Amanda has such a prolific career in such a short span of time.
Yeah.
She's like FDR, you know, like she's like really all over the place for like this like very specific time period. And what's interesting is that I feel like I got into Survivor like as an online fan that's like on message boards, like absorbing how people feel about Survivor around Fiji. And I graduated high school right after Heroes versus Villains. So like that's like that time in your life where you have a lot of time to be on the internet and be radicalized about your Survivor opinions. And so like Amanda's smack dab in that. So it's like I feel like my thoughts about Amanda are very much tied to Team Kevin at that time as well.
That's very interesting. And, you know, Amanda is like one of the big legends of the show, like one of like the biggest names. And she played 3 times in 6 seasons, which is kind of crazy. And we've had people recently who have done something similar in not quite as short of a period of time. Actually, maybe Kelly Wentworth did it even more quickly.
It's 10 seasons, 20 or 29,
oh, no, you're right.
38. And she doesn't play nearly as long as Amanda, right? So I think that's another thing. I mean, Amanda has some records.
Yeah, certainly.
Mari, you can do that off the top of your head is just astounding to me. Don't expect that from me, audience. I am not here for the data of the facts. I'm here for the feelings.
Exactly. Okay. That's what we love having you.
And you all have to remember that it's just Kevin and I in an apartment like 24/7. We're always talking about Survivor. We probably talk about other things sometimes, but we're always talking about Survivor.
Exactly. It's like it really took a lot of effort not to like weave in Survivor references into vows for us, but we stayed away.
Although my parents did get us, a very nice wedding card that did weave Survivor references into it. It was very impressive.
I love that. And and congrats again to you guys. I wish I could have been there, but all the way on the other side of the country since you decided to leave me up one day, but
we'll be back in DC eventually. Yeah, we'll be back in DC likely this year. Got to figure out some of the details and stuff, but I'm excited to be back at the East Coast. So I heard about how bad the winter is over there right now, and I'm like, maybe second thoughts.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier to be in California today.
Right? Today. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. Not for me, at least. So
that's good. Well, Kevin, do you want to do your fancy intro to the Amanda Kimmel?
Sure. Amanda Kimmel became the first Survivor contestant to last 100 days. While that record has been eclipsed by the likes of Parvati Shallow and Boston Rob, it's impressive that Amanda was never voted out until the early merge of her 3rd season. Additionally, no votes were counted against her during her first 2 seasons, despite lasting all the way to the finals. However, Amanda's inability to clinch a win suggests that she does have some specific weaknesses to her game. Out of 15 potential jury votes, Amanda has only been able to net 4 of them. Why hasn't Amanda been able to close the deal when sitting next to the likes of Todd, Courtney, or Parvati? She's good at challenges, is often strategically in the loop, and is fairly agreeable. Nevertheless, she has earned the ire of multiple jurors for her, quote, crocodile tears. You thought you knew Amanda Kimmel? Well, we think we do. And on this episode of You Thought You Knew, we'll be answering the question, can Amanda Kimmel win?
So, Mari, first, we kind of want to just go through what we think it takes to win the game of Survivor. So, what do you think it takes for someone to walk away with the $1 million?
I think it takes being able to connect with people while also having that killer instinct, being present and in front of, like, in the forefront of the jury's mind, while also making your target as small as possible among the active players. And then I finally think at Final Tribal Council, stating your whole entire game is very important as well. So I mean, there's a lot of things that can help you clinch Survivor, and there are a lot of things like that I did not say that could help you clinch Survivor. You know, we've had winners that I'm like, okay, I don't understand this, but okay, you know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot of major factors, and unfortunately, I think Amanda just always goes left to the mark for a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think because it's in many ways, it's like Amanda, I think, checks so many boxes. Like on paper, she should be a winner, but like obviously she's not been able to. And I think maybe it's that some of those key things that you mentioned about like being able to really be respected by the jury, be able to kind of showcase and weave a story for them to really impress them. And I actually do think there's a connection issue she has as well. I think Amanda plays an inoffensive game. She's nice, she's pleasant, but is she connecting deeply with people, or is it more of like a superficial kind of like workplace connection?
Oh, that's a great point.
And you know, Kevin, you mentioned that Amanda was able to pull 4 of 15 potential jury votes. Amanda clearly demonstrates a lot of skills that are very important to be successful on Survivor over the course of her gameplay, but it doesn't seem to click nearly as well in Final Tribal when she has to be getting votes, right? She can get there, but it's translating those votes are very difficult. And I'm reminded of Paul from Big Brother. Paul makes it to the end twice and loses by 1 vote twice. That's very, very close. Amanda is nowhere near just flipping 1 vote and getting the win in that scenario, right? So it seems like she does have some major issues with translating the game that she plays into a win at the end of the day.
Yeah, for me, that was my main argument for today. Going back, and I watched China again because I was like, oh, it's been a minute since I watched China. Micronesia, you know, I know like the back of my hand. Heroes versus villains, I haven't revisited lately. So but I definitely went back to her 2 final tribals, and I think that that's where she loses the game every single time. And it's kind of astounding because she, like you said, she doesn't do anything like crazy offensive or anything to make like obviously turn the jury off. It's just she doesn't do anything to help herself at those final tribals. And it doesn't help that both times she's sitting next to some powerful players, or players who are perceived as powerful within the game that she played. And she did it, that was back to back as well. Like, she didn't learn from, I don't think she learned from China, you know, that maybe you should cut the person who everybody's perceiving as the biggest threat. But then again, you know, her only options were between Suri and Parvati, and probably you could say at that point she had lost the game no matter what. So I just think that her biggest weakness to me, and what I saw, is her final tribals. They just don't click.
And they're like they don't just click. I think they're bad. You know, like
they're defensive.
They're very defensive. I don't think Amanda is able to really communicate some of those things. And it's like, in many ways, by being like an inoffensive person that's kind of easygoing and relaxed around others, really works to get you far in Survivor. I mean, she's always someone you can bounce an idea off of, someone you can count on. I mean, she's kind of like a coattail rider, but like she has a lot of agency, and she chooses to like support the power players that she ties herself to. But at the same time, it's like, it's really hard to give that person the win, you know, like to be kind of the nice, inoffensive person all of a sudden really it flips it to you in the final tribal.
So, Kevin, let's ponder the question. Do you think Amanda Kimmel can win Survivor?
I mean, like, technically, yeah. Right? I mean, like, I think she is technically one of the best to never win, right? Like, undeniably, her stats speak for itself. But since I think it's such an obvious answer to say that Amanda can win. I mean, in 100 simulations, I mean, I like to believe Amanda can win once because she's probably getting to the finals at least 80% of the time. That I'll say, yeah, I think she can. But I want to say no for the sake of like devil's advocate and kind of playing this along. But like, Mari, what do you think?
Given what we've seen, no. You know what I'm saying? Like if you take the data that you see, no, because I again, I think she played a pretty good game. Her immunity, that I'm pretty sure you're going to go through the stats. Like, I think she played good games, but I truly feel like she cannot stick the landing. And I don't know if she comes back, 25 seasons later, if she would be able to do it 26, even any more effectively, to be quite honest. So, and they kind of had her number in heroes versus villains in a sense. So I don't think so, because unfortunately she did what Paul did. She came back too quickly. If I remember correctly, when she went out for fans versus favorites, right? Like half of the people didn't see all of her season. Yeah. So like, which means she didn't get to see all of her season, So she didn't get to learn from her mistakes. And that's exactly what happened from Paul. Paul did not get to learn from their mistakes. So she repeated the same pattern that had her lose in China, and she lost it in Micronesia. I think heroes versus villains, she did better. But when you see somebody who's gotten to a final tribal twice, can you blame everybody else for being like, we can't let her go any further than this? Because now you're not playing against newbies. Now it's not half newbies, half returnees. It's all returnees, and they got your number. So no.
Yeah, I hear you, right? Nigel, what do you think?
So, Mari, I thought it was interesting that you mentioned, like, if Amanda comes back 25 seasons later, I don't know if you can see the win there. And I think that actually is probably pretty fair, because I think what it takes to win Survivor in season, let's say 47 is a returning season. I think that that's very different than what it would have taken to win Survivor China. I think that there was probably like a golden era for Amanda where she could have won, but I think that boat has kind of passed. I think if she had a little more time past her seasons to get some of that reflective learning experience and like see her seasons, maybe if she had come back for like even game changers, she could have been like a bigger name, but is also not too big of like a threat in a lot of people's eyes. You know what I mean? That maybe that was like the last chance that Amanda had.
Which, let me just... I'm going to come off like an Amanda hater, completely in this episode. And I promise, like, it's not against Amanda personally. It's about the character that we are given, that Amanda like embodies, and like her like position in the Survivor lore and legacy. I think like Amanda has such impressive stats, right? Like on paper, she has it all. But I think it makes sense why she's able to go far, because she has a lot of the natural skill sets to go far in Survivor. She's easygoing, athletic, sociable, but like not in a really intimidating way. She doesn't like question, I think, a lot of the like head honchos like strategy. She like is so well positioned within her alliances. And yeah, it's no surprise that Amanda succeeds, because like she's like a kind, nice person. And I'm actually very thankful that she loses Survivor so often, so like more interesting people can succeed, Well,
Kevin, do you want to give the overview of Amanda's journey to remind folks who may not have seen some of her seasons as recently?
Yes. So Amanda starts on Survivor China, the 15th season, as a hiking guide and former Miss Montana. She was considered a key player that season, putting together an impressive blindside on James Clement and his 2 hidden immunity idols at the final 7. And despite being a frontrunner in the eyes of many viewers, Amanda fumbled her jury answering, finishing second runner-up to Todd and Courtney. Only a few weeks later, an important thing to remember, people always think that she got second twice. She got third and then second. Only a few weeks later, Amanda was cast on Micronesia as one of the 10 favorites. There, she was notable for her budding romance with Ozzy, her role in the Black Widow Brigade, and being the first woman ever to find and play a hidden immunity idol. Amanda made it to the finals once more, lasting 78 days without having a single vote counted against her. And though she still went on to lose to Parvati in a close 5-3 jury vote. 4 seasons after Micronesia, in the 20th season, Amanda played her 3rd season in just under 3 years. She was a member of the Heroes tribe, where she was finally voted out on day 108, a record that still stands to this day.
Very, very impressive.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think it's going to be, I mean, can anyone ever beat it at this point, considering how many days that you're going to be playing? Michelle Fitzgerald has not been voted out, made it to the end twice.
Yeah. So Michelle,
but seasons are shorter now, right? So is she gonna,
oh my God, yeah.
Does she have to make it to day 26 and then come back for a 4th season, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that.
I'm not very good at math. I don't know. So Mari, what are some of your favorite Amanda moments that come to mind?
Well, for me, like, it's kind of funny because once I rewatched China, I was like, I realized like how much of almost like a non-entity she was at the beginning of that season.
Mhm.
So I think all of my favorite memories come from her from Micronesia. Like playing the idol is like top tier. Like even how they edited that episode where we don't even know that she found the idol, and then she does the mopey and she keeps it to herself and she plays it. Amazing. And that was the moment she should have been able to flip, because they kept saying she's the front runner. We need to get her out. Like, it's very funny how it went from like at final, what was it? That final 6 that she was the front runner. She was technically the front runner. That's why they had to get rid of her first, you know, once Eric has the necklace, to then like what 2 to 3 tribals later, it's like she's just we don't want to give you the money. It's weird, right?
Especially because it's like, it doesn't really feel like Amanda's doing anything that different over those like couple of tribals, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kev, what are some of your favorite Amanda moments? I'm sure you have a very long list.
Here's the thing. My favorite Amanda, when I think about my favorite Amanda moments, it's usually when she's getting roasted by the jury. So that tells you everything you need to know about me as a quote Amanda fan. I love Natalie Bolton's jury question, which everyone remembers the Parvati one.
Weird.
But
oh my God. I had to fast forward through it. I couldn't. Sorry, keep going.
But I love the Natalie to Amanda jury question, which I feel like never gets talked about, because I think it surmises so many of the issues Amanda really has. Is that, like, you know, Natalie says, Amanda, clearly a very beautiful woman. Great. Natalie Bolton, of course, starting with that. Very beautiful one. You appear to be a strong woman, but I did notice you always had a glazed over look on your face. I did notice that. My question is, was it your strategy
in quotes,
your strategy to be the zombied pretty girl, not knowing what's exactly going on, pageant queen cliche, or is this who you are as a person? Which, by the way, there is no right answer to that.
You cannot answer that question correctly.
It's like set up totally for Amanda not to be able to succeed. But I think it kind of like surmises, again, the jury's
her perception
about Amanda is that maybe she just feels a little phony. You know, that she's really nice and she's polite and agreeable, but like after 39 days of Survivor, you should be a little angry about something. I feel like we should be able to like see more levels of you connecting with you in a way. And what I really like, and what I really like about Amanda's losses, essentially, is that like on paper, Amanda should succeed. She's hardworking. She's nice. She's polite. She's not going to get into fights with people. But I kind of love the fact that she loses to like more villainous players who are so much more who are assertive in different ways. It reminds me of how like Tamar doing well in Celebrity Big Brother. You wouldn't expect on paper for someone like her to succeed because, well, she gets into fights. But as someone who's also very conflict forward instead of being conflict averse, I don't think getting into fights with people means that like you don't have strong relationships. And quite often it can mean you have very strong relationships with people. So the idea of someone like Amanda, who I think has a lot of game similarities to people like Wu, or Kelly Wigglesworth, or other like players who tend to be very agreeable, nice, hardworking, but like maybe superficial in their deep connections with others. it's just really rewarding to see that not always like succeed, because you just assume like, oh, the jury's gonna be mad at Todd or Parvati because they're like kind of quote mean people, and they're just gonna hand it over to Amanda because she's like polite despite enabling them literally the entire way. And I'm very glad that like Amanda's like nice, inoffensive personality is not fully rewarded on Survivor.
Can I say it's like the devil you know versus the devil you don't like. I personally, probably just like you, Kevin, I appreciate people who are forward in my face. Like, I don't have to guess where you stand, even if you stand against me. Like, I'd much rather know that you stand against me and we're very blunt that, oh, I don't like you, you don't like me, other than the person who's standing to the side and we don't know where their loyalties are. I don't know if they're loyal to you, loyal to me. It's always to me like one of those things. Like, if I ever went on a reality TV show, I'm getting rid of that person first, because I would much rather know that that person who's in front of me is coming after me than the person who might be behind me stabbing me in the back. And I think that could be one reason why Amanda never connects, at least sitting next to the two people she did, or I feel bad for Courtney, but like Todd has said it from the beginning. He had said it from the beginning. He was gonna do everything he needed to do to win this game, and he's lucky enough too that he said that to the right amount of people, where that they also kept it to themselves. You know what I'm saying? But they always knew his perception. And it always felt like Amanda. Like, yes, it's Amanda and Todd, but it's really Todd, right? It's Todd's the one that's pulling the strings. And Amanda's there, and she's just trying not to be mean to us because she thinks that we can't take somebody being mean to us, so that we're automatically going to give her our vote because she wasn't mean to us. Meanwhile, look at that cast. Jean Robert, James, like all of them are like very high personality people. They don't care if somebody is quote unquote being mean to them. Of course they can vote for the person who stands up to them to their face instead of the person who's perceived to just trying to be nice to them just for their vote. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely get that take, Kevin.
And I think that that's actually a little bit of Amanda's issue in China. I think that Amanda's actually a really important piece to Todd's success, because he kind of is a little bit of like an evil genius, where he has a lot of different ideas of different strategic moves that he wants to pull off. And Amanda is very much a sounding board for him. That's kind of able to like pull him back and keep things on track. And so I think as viewers, we're really able to see Amanda being an important piece of how the two of them end up in the finals. But if you were one of the other people that's on the jury, all you're probably seeing is Todd being in command of things, right? Like, you don't see Amanda as someone who's like really contributing to get them there, because those are conversations that the two of them are having off on their own. Right?
Yeah. She barely took full credit for the James vote.
It's like a real issue of hers. And like, again, like she has all these impressive statistics, but then I remember all of her jury answers and I'm like, I don't know. And like other moments in the game, like when she's left behind on the reward and it's her and PG at the final 5. Amanda could have used that moment to flip on Todd and Courtney by working with Denise, right? She could have done that, got rid of PG. I get like the risk reward situation, that maybe it wasn't worth it. But like, I remember in that moment, Amanda goes, PG, why do you dislike me so much? And I'm like, Amanda, this is so cringe. What are you doing? Like, you've known her for several days now. You've never had a conversation with her. That's so weird. Like, again, it's like, I think Amanda's actually a lot more awkward than people like recognize, But like, I think it's also probably helps her in the game a lot, because she's like this beautiful, she's gorgeous, right? She's this beautiful, like beauty queen who is a lot more down to earth, like she's easy to talk to. She doesn't like, push people's buttons. And I think it's why she succeeds, because she's just like, again, an inoffensive force. She reminds me a lot of Nicole Franzel, actually, who also has the record on Big Brother for lasting so many days. And I think it's a lot of the same reasons. Small town girl, easy to get along with, actually much better at challenges than many people give them credit for. And of course they're going to go really far, but I actually think Nicole's a lot more self-interested than Amanda is, which is why I think Nicole's had more success overall. But of course, it's no surprise they're going to go very far. They don't upset the apple cart by nature.
So I want to go through my list of favorite Amanda moments.
Go ahead, because you're clearly the biggest Amanda fan out of all of us.
Yeah.
Number 1, the absolute fever dream bizarro fight that she has with Danielle in that bedroom with Colby on the bed in Heroes versus Villains, where they're fighting over the idol clue, because that sounds like fan fiction, right? Amanda and Danielle are fighting for an idol clue in a bedroom on Survivor. Like, how is this a real scene from the show? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely bizarre. Number 2, that really weird run that she does in Heroes versus Villains when James comes back from the challenge where they're afraid that he might be getting medevaced. She yells, "James," and she does this like weird limp wrist thing. I'm like, absolutely.
So random.
It's random, but it is burned into my memory. Number 3, being really bad at lying to Parvati in Heroes versus Villains, where Amanda thinks that she's like pulling one over, and then it just cuts to a confessional of Parvati being like, "I know Amanda. I can tell when Amanda's lying. She's not being very honest with me right now." And I wonder if that's also, you know, part of Amanda's issue, where I don't think that that's something that's necessarily highlighted as much in her first 2 outings, but you know, maybe it's because Parvati knows her a little bit better, or complete strangers might be more willing to trust her just based on who she is, what her appearance is, the way that she carries herself. Whereas Parvati, like, she's starved with this person before. You know?
I think that's a good point.
Wait, did Amanda and James play like 3 times together?
Yeah, they play all 3 times in their same
my
starting
God.
tribe each time. You know, and I think that, like, again, gives her a huge leg up because she has this other person to kind of work with by nature, and it helps her get into majorities early, which is one of Amanda's greatest skills, is like figuring out a way. I feel like Amanda, again, she doesn't bond very deeply, but she bonds widely. You know, Amanda feels like the girl you just invite to the party. It's like, "Oh, Amanda, come on, Amanda, like, join in," because again, she's inoffensive, easygoing, and those things are really rewarded on a show like Survivor, especially as a woman. You know, my issue, one of my bigger issues with Amanda is that she's always in opposition to, I think, women that are much more prickly and cerebral, you know, whether that's PG, Eliza Orlins, Candace Cody. You know, she's just a lot more often like, her easygoingness makes her very satisfied with the majority that she's in, and she kind of holds on to it, and she really wants to execute for her alliance.
But see, what you need to remember is that it works for her because she always ends up in the finals. Why does she want to overturn the apple cart, right?
I know. And that's the thing, is like, I can't hate on Amanda's game. I will hate on her as a character and as a figure in the show. We even got to our true opinions about Amanda, but they're all bubbling up for me because she's just such an omnipresent person for 3 seasons.
Maury, well, is there anything else that you want to share about Amanda before we jump into Kevin's research that he's done to understand the consensus that exists on Amanda Kimmel?
Nope, I think that's it for me. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask you, Maury, were you an Amanda fan at first? What's your journey with Amanda?
So kind of like you, I think China premiered when I was starting college, if I remember correctly. So it was the first time in a few years where I was only tangentially like watching Survivor. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even remember if I watched the finale. I was just like, because I was like, Todd has this in the bag. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, I don't need to watch. I'm pretty sure. I saw on MSN homepage the next day, like, Todd wins. I was like, yeah, that tracks, you know? So I stopped watching for like a few years and then got back on the train. I forget. Because I don't know the orders like you guys do, but I remember I watched all of Russell's season. I watched Coach and Sophie. I watched so I know I came back. What's 4 seasons after? What's the season directly after Heroes versus Villains?
Is it Nicaragua? 21.
Oh, that was bad. I remember, but Gabon. I think Gabon
is after Micronesia.
Yeah, I think Gabon was when I was in college. I was like, I was in college, and that was probably the first season that I made my boyfriend / now husband watch. and then that's where we like got back on the train. So I had to revisit all of Amanda's stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't radicalized on the boards. So I absolutely loved everybody in Micronesia that were on the Black Widow Brigade. You know what I'm saying? Like, how could you not? I thought her showmance with Ozzy was interesting. You know, I go back and forth with Ozzy. Everybody should know. You know, he's cool now, but whatever. So I like Amanda, like on surface. It's the same thing, like surface. She's never offended me on any of the seasons that I've seen her. I was like, oh yeah, she's cool. I was never rooting for her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because she was always sitting next to the person I was rooting for. And then once she cut Suri, I'm like, well, it's above me now because now I don't like you.
Yeah, it's interesting for me too because it's like, yeah, Amanda has like vaguely positive feeling. You know, it's literally vanilla, right? Like general wide appeal, but like kind of like a little basic, I guess. And I remember hating Amanda when she got cast for Micronesia just because I was such a PG person. I was like, Amanda, her. Whatever. But I think she makes sense as a returnee, and I think she makes sense as a returnee in Heroes versus Villains, but I just was not the biggest like fan of hers, despite really liking the people that she works with. But she was always like the fourth pick out of that group. Like she was never like the one I felt like I had the strongest feelings for.
Right.
But before I talk about my feelings about Amanda, because I really wanted to go into about that for a moment, Nigel, China was one of your first seasons though.
Yes, but I may have even seen Heroes versus Villains before China. I just like skipped right ahead.
So you know Amanda was like a legend.
Amanda was one of she might have been like the person I had seen the most because I saw China and her and James, I guess. But I saw both of those seasons in like the first 5 that I ever watched. So to me, I think that they were both very much like big characters with the show. And I think it's also kind of interesting because I was, a decade younger when I first watched China and Heroes versus Villains. And rewatching it now, I'm kind of struck by how much younger she feels to me. Whereas when I watched her for the first time, yeah, she very much felt like a peer. And so I think that watching it now, I feel like I'm much more aware of things that I would want to do differently if I was out there, but are probably because I'm just older, more life experience than she had. So, I mean, I do like Amanda, and I think that she's always kind of like one of like the first big stars in my mind, just based on the order of seasons that I watched.
Yeah. And I was telling Nigel this earlier, Mari, but I'll let you know this, is that I was thinking about Amanda, and it's like, I can't say that she doesn't have moments, because she does, and she's really effective. She's part of incredible seasons. I mean, 3 of the best seasons of all time. Her fingerprints are on blind sides that are really critical and important. And like, again, she's an inoffensive presence. She's the first person to make it 100 days. She's the first 2-time finalist. Especially doing that at such a young age is really impressive.
23.
At 23, she's so young. But it makes me also reflect and think about, if she does all of these things and I don't get excited thinking about her, do I not just like her? Like, I clearly don't like her then, right? It's like a female friend of mine. She's like, this guy I'm dating, he's so nice. He's so sweet. We go out and he's just nice, but I just don't feel the spark. And the answer is, well, you probably don't like him. Like at the end of the day, like she does not capture me in a way. And it reminded me of a Survivor Sucks post that I wanted to read, which I think really captures my perspective of Amanda. This was written in 2009. So this is before Heroes versus Villains, but after Micronesia. So it gives you this perspective of someone who, and this person's favorites were like Parvati Shallow, Suri, Sandra, like a lot of the legends of the time. And I feel like it encapsulates a lot of my feelings about Amanda in that moment. And it reads, up until a few days ago, I thought it was someone who was just meh on Amanda. I give her credit for having a solid game, and she does, and think that she's largely inoffensive. I didn't really get any of the hate that she receives. Then I read that she was under consideration to return for season 20, and the amount of revulsion I had at the mere idea of her coming back led me to confront some hard truths about myself. I cannot effing stand Amanda Kimmel. What possible motivation could they have to bring her back? She got to the end twice. What more could we see of her? What else does she have to offer? More than anyone else, I find the idea of another season full of Amanda to be ludicrous and completely unjustified. Amanda is just a bit of a bland person. That itself is not enough to dislike her, and she's had some pretty epic moments, but she's also has nothing to offer me entertainment-wise. And later they do say, which I really identify with, is they talk about Amanda's gameplay. And they said, Amanda has this kind of low-key and non-confrontational nature that lends itself to this game, and she's actually pretty athletic and a decent liar. She's also a big believer in sucking up to the resident alpha male. In other words, she's perfect for the game. Part of me is so against her being on another season because I know she will go far. I'm confident in her ability. And that's kind of like My perspective
Dang.
about Amanda, and again, no hate to Amanda, literally for Amanda, right? Like, don't be sending her anything negative. But there's something about Amanda, like her greatest skills is that she's likable and she's competent. Two things I do not care about in a Survivor contestant, right? I'd rather you be like Jatia flailing around for 4 episodes, give me something to work with, than Amanda, who's of course she's going to succeed. She's nice, pretty, likable, strategic enough, but not anything that's intimidating. And I'm just like, I'm not into it. Like, she's allergic to serving. She's not giving us anything. And the amount of times I saw people with the comment, "Go ahead, girl, give us nothing."
Give us nothing, yeah.
On Amanda post speaks to her. But I think that maybe is a reason why you kind of like Amanda, though, Nige.
What specifically from your rant is why I like Amanda?
That she is kind of go ahead, girl, give us nothing. You're like a big Dua Lipa fan.
No,
I feel
but
like that
I mean, I am a big Dua Lipa fan, but I want to be clear that Amanda is not allergic to serving. Okay. It's not
Marty,
true.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's not true. You might wish that she served more or more intensely. I think that's fair. But to say she's allergic to serving, I think is factually.
It's not what it's not what you've served, it's how you serve.
Yeah.
She's just not a person with flair. She isn't.
Yeah.
You know, she's not fierce. She's impressive, but she's not fierce. And I feel like there's a real difference in that.
Again, the only fierceness I saw was when she played her idol. That was the one moment I was like, "Yeah, girl, go ahead."
And I thought it was really cool. But you know, even in that moment, I was like, "Oh, I'd love it if she goes home right now."
That's because you just don't like her. That's.
I was rooting for her there. I was so happy when Alexis went home in her stead.
Yeah,
So.
and Amanda has a low-key rivalry with Alexis, actually, over like both having crushes on Ozzy, which I think is
love it,
which is kind of fun. And I like I said, I think Amanda again has all this on paper, but it just does not come together in a very exciting, dynamic way for me. And part of this podcast I'm really excited to is maybe I'll be won over. Maybe I'll see the light and see it, because Amanda is fairly popular. She's in the top 3 of fan favorites in Micronesia. And as much as like the internet, we love the Black Widow Brigade, the casuals were not a big fan. I mean, Alliance full of women, America was not ready. But like Amanda was still popular enough because she is like a nice, agreeable person. You know, she's good at challenges. But those are, again, not qualities I tend to love in her or in contestants generally.
Well, Kevin, I hate to break it to you, but we're already 37 minutes into this podcast. So if you haven't started to see the light on Amanda, I don't know how much we're going to be able to for the remainder here. But do you now want to get into some of the research you've done?
I'll get into it. So I looked on the Survivor subreddit first and just searched Amanda Kimmel, seeing what are the types of posts that came up the most often. So a lot of them were, why was Amanda Kimmel so popular? Or what's the hype around Amanda Kimmel? And I think also a lot of questions about, like, you know, how would have Amanda do on other seasons? A lot of comparisons to Russell Hantz, since they both were the first two-time finalists in a way. So I think there's definitely a lot to talk about Amanda and the fact that she became so popular or she was so present so quickly, because I don't think Amanda's personality suggests someone who should come back 3 times. I think James Clement actually makes a lot of sense. He wins fan favorite twice. Amanda doesn't, even though she goes so much further. And the question about why was Amanda Kimmel so popular, a lot of the answers here are very simple. She's pretty. She's good at challenges. What's not to like? You know, it's a little bit more of a superficial answer, in my opinion, but one that obviously is shared by a lot of people. Someone said, I liked her in China because she played a good game strategically and physically, but failed to read what the jury wanted. She orchestrated the biggest move of the season in the James blindside. My impression of her speaking to the jury is that she tried to be the nice girl, so much that she never owned any of her moves. Her pageant girl smoothness and beauty worked to hoodwink people during the game, but she couldn't convince people that she deserved to win. The convincing isn't part of the nice girl or beauty pageant way. You kind of have to be inoffensive and you get rewarded, and she needed to advocate for herself. And again, a lot of people also mention that she's so boring and monotone that it transcends into being entertaining, actually. Because I think, again, like now we can project feelings onto Amanda. And, you know, Nigel's a big Amber fan who I feel like actually has a bit of those similar qualities. Do you see qualities with Amber and Amanda? No?
I mean, listen, Amber is one of the all-time legends, okay?
But again, like reserved personalities. And here's my other thing about Amanda. Yes, athletic, outdoorsy beauty queen. Danny Boatwright just won a few years ago. Okay, so I've seen it. And low-key personality who comes back to showmance a bigger male personality. Amber did that, and she had the nerve to win. And I also find that Amanda like with Amber at least, is she goes from this person who really had no business being on All Stars, winning All Stars, which I think is hilarious. That's like iconic. And then she goes in the Amazing Race like twice and like gets her wedding televised and has like 4 beautiful children. She like won it all despite not even believing she should have won in some ways. There's something iconic about that. Amanda, I just feel like never like reaches that fully, but in some ways that's what makes people like her. I think sometimes people really enjoy her because she's actually kind of memeable because she exists for so many episodes you can kind of do that for. But a lot of people will just generally talk about, yeah, Amanda is one of the best to never win because she has a lot of just natural skill set. Question for the room. Mari, do you think Amanda's a better player than Russell Hantz? That's a common thing I'm also seeing on the internet.
Oh, God. Not the Russell question. I mean, yeah, because she didn't she didn't rely on hidden immunity idols in order to further herself in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I will give her flowers on that. Like, boring, inoffensive, whatever you call it, it still got her to the finals multiple times and got her pretty far in Heroes versus Villains. Russell sat right there in those same chairs and lost to somebody even more inoffensive than Amanda and Natalie White. So I still can't believe that. Oh my God. So like she's definitely, I think she is better than Russell personally. And you know, Russell's comments about shouldn't be in the jury, blah blah blah, all of his rants and stuff like that. I just think he doesn't get it, and I think Amanda does. And yeah, I mean,
yeah, a lot of people talk about Amanda's just one public speaking coach away from winning Survivor twice. You know, like she has a lot of that skill set, right? Nigel, what do you think about the Russell Amanda debate since they're both 2-time finalists?
Can you remind me what Russell's record is for votes received out of total?
He gets 2 out of 9 in Samoa and then 0 out of 9 in
So Amanda has a better
votes.
record in getting votes tribal. She has a better overall placement record because she goes farther on her 3rd outing than Russell does when he makes it to the end twice. I think that it's also a little difficult to tell because their games are so different, where Russell's feels like the way that he plays the game, he should not make it to the end as often as he did in those first 2 seasons. Whereas like Amanda's play feels like she should always be near the end, right? Like she should always be getting kind of close. So it is kind of impressive that Russell does make it to the end. But ultimately, I do think you're right, Mari, that like Russell didn't really get the jury in a way that I find disqualifying.
And he got there through advantages. Like what's the stats on how many like hidden immunity idols he played? Like,
a lot of them. And Amanda does play an idol once to save herself, right? Like that is an element, but like, you know, she's still final 6 bound both times.
Right.
And it makes a lot of sense. The Survivor Reddit community also agrees that Amanda is a better player than Russell Hantz because she seems to understand that juries you need to win over. Amanda may not be the best at doing that, but like she seems to get it.
Recognizes
and she has more social tact, but they are very different. I feel like Amanda likes to play from the top. You know, she's really good at getting to the majority. Russell, I think, actually comes alive playing at the bottom, right? Like he's so inventive but like he lacks a lot of the social tact that Amanda has.
And I do wonder too, is like, could Amanda get out of being on the bottom in a way that Russell can? You know, like I think that's like a very fair question where she is so, you know, agreeable, go with the flow. But like if there's a majority that forms and she's just like on the outs, is she going to really be able to make something happen to flip the game?
And we see that she was unable to in Heroes versus Villains, right?
That's
like, you know, Candace leaves her even though Sandra wanted to join her. And I think that, you know, that's definitely a thing here. I also wanted to mention that Amanda is definitely a meme online. If you ever go to an Ask Me Anything, an AMA on the Survivor subreddit, doesn't matter who it is, someone will always ask the question, what do you think about the Amanda Kimmel of Survivor China, Survivor Micronesia, and Survivor Heroes versus Villains fame? A question.
Every single time.
And someone has created like essentially a compilation of everyone's responses to this. And I wanted to read some of them.
I want you to know that Kevin also has like the photos of these people with their quotes. It's
Someone
like,
created a
oh,
flyer
God.
like on Imgur, using that in a way. And actually at the top of it, it says the Amanda Kimmel testimony. It's like the Amanda, that's like part of her title. The thoughts on a pageant queen turned hiking guide, turned survivor player, turned aspiring designer, turned aspiring actress, turned poker player, turned holistic nutritionist. Again, it's like projecting so much on. Eliza Orland said when asked, I definitely think Amanda played a great game. She is the official, quote, best survivor never to win since she made it to the end twice. However, in order to get credit for your great game, you have to seal the deal at the end and be able to speak coherently about the moves you made and persuade the jury to vote for you. To fail that twice is a huge failure.
Yeah.
Cindy Hall of Guatemala says, never met her outside of the game, but haven't heard anything negative about her. I personally enjoyed her as a contestant, but not sure we need to see anybody play so many times. I'm a fan of fresh faces and drama. Billy Garcia says, I only met her twice, briefly, a long time ago. She seems really nice. Not at all the kind of person you would expect to play Survivor, let alone be good at it.
Billy, come on.
Strays, people are like, Amanda's nice, but I seem to have issues with her. Again, there's a deeper issue that she has. Chet Welch said, I liked Amanda. We talked pageant a lot, and we knew a lot of the same people, and she always did really well, but really did not wow me in any way. Sure, I hope to see her again, but actually, I hope we will see others again from my season. Charlie Herschel of Gabon says, I've met Amanda twice, and she was sweet both times I met her. I was starstruck the first time, and she was so nice to me. And she remembered me the second time and made a point to come over and give me a hug and chit-chat. Again, Amanda has, everyone says Amanda's nice. But quite often there is a little bit of reservation. I think that's really interesting that Amanda, again, a low-key presence, seemed to instill a variety of opinions.
Here's a question. Does Amanda run into a similar issue as Monica Culpepper?
Yes. A little Stepfordy.
Where she's a neat lady.
Yeah, she's neat. She's nice. She's pleasant. She's hardworking. But I don't feel like I know who you are, because who is someone that's all of those things? A phony person, kind of, right? It's your office mate, the person who's around you who knows all the right things to say, but I don't feel like I get to know you at this deeper level. I feel like that's totally an issue she faces.
And I think that's the issue I have that people take, is that it doesn't mean she's phony. You just believe her to be phony.
Well, no, I think it's her natural impetus in life is to be agreeable. And I want to see her not do that.
I don't trust it. Yeah, I don't trust it. There's so many times that you have those coworkers that seem so agreeable and so amenable to whatever you want to do, and you ask them questions and they're like, oh, your hair looks nice. And then you find out one day that they've been talking crap about you behind your back this whole entire time. You know what I'm saying? That's the vibes that Amanda gives off. The coworker that you think you're cool with until something happens and they're throwing you under the bus.
Yeah, it's it's just really nice, easygoing, and I find it really suspicious. I love someone who's going to tell me, I have a problem with you. Here's my problem. Let's work on it. And she's just not that type of person.
And I think that's something that she could also run into when she comes up against the jury, is that she has that image of the really nice, sweet person, right? And when you feel like she betrays you, you're kind of pissed. But if you feel like she got one over on you, that she was really able to kind of trick you, she does not give you a final tribal that lets you say, you know what? I see what she was doing. She had this cohesive plan. I think she does a final tribal that makes you say, so you are just phony. That's it. It was not a part of a grand strategy. It was just, you were phony in individual moments, and that allowed you to get to final tribal.
Yeah. But I also think it's she automatically, especially in her in China, she comes off apologizing first and foremost. She always puts herself on the defensive, the defensive foot immediately, when she should be on the offensive. Yes, I got rid of you. Yes, I helped so-and-so get rid of you, because if we didn't, you'd be sitting here. You always got to flatter the jury like that. You know what I'm saying? And she does not do a good job of flattering the jury. I think she just tries to tell them what they want to hear. And they're like, we know you're just trying to tell me what you want me to hear, and I don't believe you. You know what I'm saying? So even if that might be what she really wants to say to them, you know what I'm saying? But it's like she really puts herself on the back foot immediately.
Yeah. And I think Amanda, I feel like there's a saying out there. It's like you can choose to be liked or you can choose to be respected. And Amanda seems to be someone who'd rather be liked than respected almost always. And there's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that in its nature. But I think on Survivor, where you really need to get the respect of people, it's really hard to. I mean, of course, Amanda's going to go far. She wants you to like her. And if you like you, it's so much easier to play Survivor. But I think it is hard to sometimes win. You know, think about someone like Lil and Sandra. Lil is much nicer than Sandra is, but Sandra is respected more than Lil is because she's a little bit more honest and direct, and there's something about that. And some of our most effective Survivor players are actually a little cocky, or have some, you know, more negative moments, but they feel authentic in a way, and there's something about that that's really meaningful to people. Just to keep this moving here, I did find a popularity poll from 2016 where the Survivor subreddit ranked all the contestants, scoring them between 1 and 10 on each of them. All 3 of Amanda's incarnations in the top 3rd overall. Mari, what do you think is the most popular Amanda incarnation? Is it China Amanda, Micronesia Amanda, or Heroes versus Villain Amanda?
Has to be Micronesia Amanda.
You think Micronesia Amanda?
Yeah, I think it has to be Micro too.
All right. The number 1 Amanda is China Amanda, actually.
Really?
Right around the 10 percentile. Micronesia Amanda is not very far off, around 12%, top 12%. And then Heroes versus Villains Amanda, top 31%. So it's a little bit further. I mean, she definitely goes earlier. That being said, Heroes versus Villain Amanda, my favorite Amanda. And like a lot of the moments you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I feel like we see a lot more, a less sterile Amanda, if you will, in Heroes versus Villains. But I think what's most interesting here is that the Survivor contestant she's quite often has strong correlations with is Andrea Belke.
I actually wrote Andrea's name down here earlier as like the anti-Amanda, because every season Amanda is good. She really like benefits from that. Andrea is always on seasons that people don't like.
Yeah, Redemption Island, Karamoan, Game Changers. And I think in some ways they have like similar like profiles, if you will. They're supposed to be attractive but athletic, or they're more like farm girls, if you will. I feel like there's definitely that's part of it. And I think that's, again, my bigger issue is not with Amanda herself, but like kind of like I feel like how the show depicts her and wants to use her. She feels a little too girl next door. I can imagine like production when she was being cast was like, oh, she's a hard worker, but she looks great in a bikini. She's gorgeous, but doesn't take herself too seriously. It's like all the guys want to date her and all the girls want to be here. And it's like, enough. Like, we get it. You're likable, but give me something else. I want you to like give me a little bit of nerve, and obviously she showcases it in her game, but there's something about like, if someone told me their favorite was Amanda, it makes me question if you're from Montana first. Like, that's my first concern. It's like, are you from Montana? Like, it seems kind of strange that she's your favorite, but she's kind of like, it's the kind of thing about like Joe Anglem fans, if you will. And I'm not talking about like post-show Joe has had some flack, but like, if your favorite's Joe, it's like, oh, you kind of like the guy that's like nice, polite, hard worker.
The knockoff of the knockoff of the knockoff.
There's something about that. And I think Andrea has a bit of that too. Andrea is a much more, I think, strategically assertive person. But again, I think there's something about like a little too all-American, a little too one note for especially someone like me who really wants the more flawed players, to succeed. Someone like Amanda succeeding is kind of like obvious to me. Any thoughts about Amanda's popularity with the fan base, Nige?
I'm actually surprised she was ranked that high for China and Micro. I thought that she would be maybe at least all of them around like the 30% mark rather than like pretty high up there, just because I don't think she's someone who elicits strong opinions from most people, Kevin aside.
Yeah.
Right. And
I see what you're saying.
I looked at the distribution. So on scores of 1 to 10, Amanda most often gets a score of 7, which is so Amanda. It's a safe, vaguely positive number. It's
vaguely positive. Yep.
It's like a safe answer. It drives me crazy a little bit as someone who really likes the analytics of it all, But I want to get onto some of the historic perception of Amanda. In 2012, she was inducted into the Survivor Hall of Fame the same year as Rob Cesternino and Ethan Zahn. And those are legends.
I didn't even know there was a Survivor Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so Xfinity had a Survivor Hall of Fame. I think right after Heroes versus Villains. So like the first inductees were Parvati, Boston Rob, Sandra, you know, like a lot of like known people. But she's an early inductee, Nige.
Wow, she was able to join at the same time as Rob and Ethan.
Yes, and don't you find that
queen?
Yeah, it's like iconic. But also, like, are we sure? Like, stop the count. You know, there's something about it. It's like it totally makes sense, but it's like I want a little bit of mystery, a little artistry, a little bit different. What the executive voting committee said about Amanda. So these are people who it's like the academy, right? So these are people who were already in there, or people who
I
want to
know who was on this panel.
Okay, I'll read you some of these. Boston Rob said about Amanda. Amanda's a great strategic, social, and physical player. Her approach to the game is subtle, yet very effective for her. She knows who she is and what her strengths are and how to implement them to get her deep and give her a shot. I mean, hard to disagree with.
Hard to disagree with. Yeah.
Jeff Probst said, she's one of the most consistently strong finishers in the history of Survivor. She improved each time she played. She was always a strong physical presence and was not afraid to make big moves to keep herself in the game. Also hard to disagree with.
Before you go on, what year was this?
2012.
Okay, Jeff knows that she did not improve every time, right?
Not placement, perhaps, but like he thinks her gameplay.
Okay, fair.
I'd argue. Maybe
I'm looking at the inductees per year, and can I?
What are your thoughts? Tell me. Give it to us, Maury.
So the first 5 were Parvati, Boston Rob, Russell Hantz, Richard Hatch, and then Sandra. Like.
Hard to disagree with.
Hantz,
legends.
But Russell Hantz feels a little high up there for me, but whatever. He's the only non-winner in that 5-person.
He was just so visible, and I think it was just right after the heels, and like
it was right after. This is 2010, so
and at the time it's like Russell fever like crazy, and I hate it personally, and I think we've come around to like being reflective on it. But like, he was, I mean, he had like the most confessionals like overall probably between those 2 seasons. Just so much. But go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, sorry. And then 2011 is Sari, Ozzy, and then Tom Westman.
Other Heroes versus Villains legends. Cast members and Ozzy. I mean, these are big time players.
Yeah, and like you said, Amanda, Rob, and Ethan Zahn. So
yeah, and it's like if you think about like if I thought of the 10 most iconic female players in Survivor, it's hard not to disagree that Amanda is probably one of them, but she doesn't feel like she belongs there.
I completely disagree. She just totally feels like she's supposed to be there. She's from 3 very iconic seasons. She's on the biggest season of all time. She's one of the Black Widows. She totally feels like she's supposed to be part of this.
I know.
And listen to this. For a comparison, in 2014, they inducted like 3 episodes into the Hall of Fame. Amanda's in 2 of them. So the first one is Borneo, the final tribal council. The second one is Micronesia, episode 13, tribal council. And finally, Survivor Heroes versus Villains, episode 10, tribal council. So the episode right before she goes home. So she's in all 3, well, not all 3, in 2 of those episodes. So
it makes sense. I mean, she's very present. I get it. She wins the award for Best Supporting Actress. She's never the star.
That is the Best Supporting Actress award. That's fair.
And like I said, like again, it's hard to deny. Like she is a top 10 like legend. I think, especially out of the female cast. But like when I compare her to some of the people like Parvati, Sari, Jerry, Stephanie. I mean, the women who I feel like are like a tier above her. It definitely feels like a gap because I think Amanda's greatest strength is that like. She's like inoffensive. And it's to me, Hall of Fame, I think you got to be bigger than that.
I mean, I think that you're describing
absolutely my perspective, right? And like in my Hall of Fame, like Purple Kelly's probably in it, right? Like I have terrible opinions, but the casuals love Amanda. I mean, and like, I think, and she's like respectable enough. She's in the top 3rd for all of her appearances, even on Survivor Reddit. So I looked actually back at some of her, like recaps episodes that occurred when she was on Survivor. So in the let me start with the Heroes versus Villains preview. They did a roundtable on Reality News Online asking people, how do you think Amanda will do? All of them pretty much said, probably make the jury. Of course, it's like what she does. She can always make the
Right.
jury stage. Some people did think
Mhm.
maybe her threat status as a 2-time finisher could catch up to her, but in general, it's like, well, Amanda has all the skill set to do well. But my favorite was that someone referred to her as the Buffalo Bills of Survivor. She can make it all the way to the end,
Oh,
but can't pull off the
yeah.
victory. Do you like that,
Yep.
Mari?
I do. As a football fan, that is very apt. I love that.
Right. And then in the right before the finale in China. So this is 2007. Asher Streets writes, they did a power ranking of the final 4 about who they think is most likely to win to least likely. Number 1, Amanda, saying that she's been in the top spot all season long, never dripping below 3rd. So it's like only like Todd or maybe even Aaron perhaps was like above her for a moment after an episode. But like she's always in the top. And this person believes she will win because she didn't scheme too openly and has good jury relationships, LOL. But like, again, the perspective is there that she would win. And Amanda was actually the spoiled winner back in China. There was a belief that she would win, and it made sense based on the edit that she was getting that like, well, Todd and Amanda have definitely ruffled some feathers. Why wouldn't Amanda win? So I was pleasantly surprised to find out that she didn't. And David Bloomberg of RHAP fame as well actually wrote in 2008 after Micronesia and that finale, why did Amanda lose? He cited in an interview with Amanda that she wanted to play a, quote, loyal game and would not turn on Parvati and Suri, which is kind of ironic considering that's like, girl, you have to do that if you want to win. These are the people that are going to beat you.
She didn't learn from the first time.
And I do think
on these people.
And I think there's an argument that maybe Amanda could theoretically win in a final 3 against Parvati and Suri. And there's been a lot of discourse on this. But like Amanda, you know, definitely didn't want to like upset the apple cart. And Suri actually mentioned in an interview that Suri and Parvati did most of the dirty work. Amanda tried to be friendly, and if there was anything to do with voting someone out, she wanted to keep it a secret. She had a great move with the idol, but outside of that, she didn't really do much. And I sort of think there's like David Bloomberg writes that maybe she was a bit too in the shadows, and kind of by playing second fiddle and minimizing your threat status, that can come back to haunt you when it comes to like the jury's perceptions, which we've definitely covered as an Amanda issue. But even back then, I think people recognize that Amanda has all the skill sets, just again, not that finishing touch. Any thoughts about Amanda's time on Survivor, how people were perceiving her then, Nige?
I mean, not particularly. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's been a whole lot of change over time between how people viewed Amanda then versus how they're viewing her now based on some of the responses that we see here. Mari, what about you?
No, like all of that sounds about right to me. Like like everybody expecting her to go far, you know, everybody saying like, okay, she did this much, but she didn't do enough to win. I mean, that makes sense. And again, I don't know if her legacy is going to change much in our discussion here because, you know, I agree with I agree with all of those.
Yeah, it's like I think we all like.
It's just kind of like it's a 7. Like, she's still a 7. It's still, you know.
I do think
it's not like Russell, like we were saying.
Yes.
Russell's completely, like, oh my god, I don't know if you guys did it already, but I definitely want to hear the historical like
perception on Russell.
And then because it was wild. I remember when everybody loved his gameplay, and then but anyway, sorry.
Kevin's gonna need to take a Xanax before he talks about Russell Hantz for a full.
Yeah, like Russell Hantz is my 2016. You know, it was a tough time for me, but I think it's fun the idea that like Amanda's legacy hasn't changed very much because very much like Amanda on Survivor, she's kind of an enduring figure. You know, she really isn't
need to change.
She doesn't need to change because if it's not broken, don't fix it. Though Amanda could fix it a little bit. It's just it's so minor.
And I think that part of the reason that Amanda's legacy doesn't really change is that her time on the show is so compact. You know, Ethan Zahn is on season 3 all the way to 40, right? Like we get a lot of different Ethan. Amanda, it's like this was like what she did for a few summers. You know what I mean? It was just like a little hobby she had at one time. And it's so like time capsule almost. And you know, what was kind of interesting in preparing, I listened to Amanda's interview with Rob and Nicole when she was doing the Miss Survivor 2012. And it was so interesting as Rob and Nicole are like asking her questions. They're essentially saying like, Amanda, you're like so mysterious. You're so elusive. You're this like elusive figure. And Amanda's like, why? I don't really think I am. She's like, I'm just like not really online, I guess. And I think that actually kind of, to me, painted more of a broader picture of like, Amanda must not have like the best sense of how other people perceive her as well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of like why she doesn't exactly know what she's supposed to say to get your jury vote when she's in front of the jury. She's like, I think I'm just like normal, like everybody else. And other people are like, you are very mysterious.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's a thing about like Amanda, if I had to guess, has not had a lot of conflict in her life. She's not used to like, you know, putting him up and like, and standing her own and saying, don't talk to me like this, or you misunderstand who I am. Right. And I think that probably comes for like, she's not prepared, where it feels like Parvati was so quick to kind of throw it back to James, you know, and like when she's answering jury questions. Sandra feels like she's always been ready with a quick response. Like Amanda is not hardened in the same way. And I think that, again, is why she goes far in Survivor, right? But I think it gives her trouble winning. Did you have any other takeaways from the Miss Survivor of it all? She does not win, by the way.
Who won?
Parvati, right?
I just watched Amanda's.
We like forgot it. I think
because this was before I got.
I think Parvati won, so they had it open to like the first like 24 seasons of like women, and so Amanda was a finalist along with I think Courtney Yates and Parvati. Maybe there was someone else there too, but
she did not seem very prepared for her interview.
She's not good at the jury questioning. I'm telling you.
Her talent was like singing on her guitar, but it was like impromptu. Like Robin and Nicole were like, "Oh, are you going to sing for us?" And she was like, "I guess."
Oh, God.
I guess that's what I'm going to do now. Like it was not planned on her part.
And there's like I think it's like a confidence issue too, right? The fact that she's like she kind of plays down herself is again a reason why people want to work with her. People trust her. It gives her an opportunity to also use that against you if she so chose to.
Okay, fine. So here's a question, Mari: how does she become Miss Montana then? Because I feel like there's definitely skills overlapping that could make you eligible to win, you know, that competition and Survivor.
You're about to have me insult the whole entire state.
Go ahead, do it.
Miss Montana, like I feel like it's not that difficult. It's not like she's a Miss California, Miss New York, Miss Major Metropolitan City. Like it's, you know, beauty pageants.
I think you're right. And not to say that it's not still like impressive to an extent, but like compared to like Montana's a population of 1 million people. That's very small. California is closer to 40 million, for example. You know, Jacqueline's a Miss Michigan. Michigan's population, you know, at least 10 times about the size of Montana's, right? So like it's a much bigger field. And like, yeah, she's a pageant girl, but she's also kind of gawky, which you don't really associate with pageants very much.
That run to James,
exactly. You know, like, think about compared to like Taylor Hale.
Yeah,
she definitely has a bit of a different presence because I do think the competition's a little bit different.
Taylor gives a theory.
Yeah.
How did you know the population of Michigan off the top of your head, Kevin?
I know. I work for the census.
I Googled it and you were right.
Yeah. I work for the census, so like those type of statistics kind of come very easy for me. But like, you know, Amanda was in the same pageant for Miss USA as Candace Stewart of Big Brother 15. And I think Candace actually showed, you know, she had a lot of situations going on in Big Brother 15, but like a certain level of grace, eloquence, you know, in the way that other quote eloquence, a lot of like pageant queens tend to have that Amanda doesn't always have. And I think it's probably because, like, you know, I think for some people they put a lot of emphasis on the Miss Montana of it all, but I think we should put more emphasis on the Montana of it all, a bit more introverted, reserved, down to earth farm girl is like a lot closer to who I think Amanda really is and why she's so effective in the way that, again, why like Andrea Belke goes really far or Nicole Franzel. You know, I feel like it's again, similar profiles.
Shout out to the Montana listeners.
Yes, we love you.
I also wonder if maybe part of the reason Amanda is able to be successful in the pageant circuit is that it feels like that kind of competition, you, the individual, is much more like pulled back than what Survivor is. Survivor, it's people you have been starving next to for 39 days. But in a pageant, you are on a stage. I think that probably gives an idea of performance that she's not giving in like a final tribal that maybe she should be.
Yeah. I think that's like a thing. You know, Sophie Clark had once said that she actually kind of boozed herself up before her final tribal council, so she'd give more honest answers. I think she was rewarded for that because I think Coach and Albert felt like such con men in a way. And there's this authenticity thing that is really, really true. I know we're wrapping up here. I did want to mention that I looked at Amanda's Edgic, which is like her episode ratings, where people can say that, you know, you were really complex, or you negatively toned, positively toned, we're supposed to root for you, yada, yada, yada. In Amanda's 38 episodes of Survivor, she was positively rated 7 times, negatively rated twice, and 3 mixed. So of her 38 episodes, 26 are toneless, which means that like there was no editing cues to make us feel a certain way about Amanda in any way. And I think that actually is another issue I have with Amanda probably as a character, which is that we're kind of told she's one of the heroes, and it makes sense that she's there. She checks a lot of these boxes off. But I wonder if it's as much as what Amanda's doing, or like our own cultural associations of what Amanda's supposed to be. You know, the fact that she's an attractive, hardworking white woman that doesn't put up a fuss. I mean, like that she has the aesthetic of someone who belongs on the heroes tribe, despite like, you know,
not doing anything rather heroic.
Yeah, like what does she do that's that heroic? You know, she blindsides people.
The immunity from Eric.
Yeah, right? And
like,
again, that's,
and Parvati's on the villains.
And so like, you know, at least Suri is like a symbol of like getting off the couch. But like Amanda again is, I think again, like it's again how we feel about Amanda and people like Amanda. I think she's very Taylor Swift, if you will, a relatable, accessible, marketable person, but maybe kind of basic in the packaging of it all. But like, production loves that. I mean, that's someone who's really easy to work with. And it doesn't surprise me that Amanda comes back, even if it bothered me, especially at the time.
You know, Kevin, you mentioned 26 toneless episodes. That's like a lot from her journey. And I think that you've told me in the past that it seems like producers were probably expecting Amanda to be like a bigger fan favorite out of China than she ended up being.
Yeah, she's not even top 3
like
in the China fan favorites.
Surprise.
Like Denise beats her out as one of the favorites, if you will.
And that surprises them for micro, right? And I wonder if like part of the reason that they don't tone Amanda nearly as much is that they think the audience is just going to like, quote, get it, and that they don't really have to do anything to make you feel something about Amanda because she's pretty, she's the beauty, you know, like all those things that they think will naturally have people in her corner to some degree.
And in many ways, again, she gets a 7 by most people, right? Like it does make her likable, but like I don't feel like we ever really are rooting that hard for her, other than like maybe a single episode like the Micronesia Final 6 or something like that. It's hard to fully be with her there. But I've always wanted to give Amanda the credit for her game because I think she is obviously very good at it. The statistics speak for themselves. I'll also just quickly mention here, Mari, have you ever heard of a Livid Manda?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so Nigel, have you heard of Livid Manda?
I feel like you've mentioned this before.
So Livid Manda was like a comic GIF, you know, like this character that existed, like a comic strip character on Survivor Sucks back in the day. And it comes from an Amanda quote where she mentions that she's livid. But of course, in Amanda fashion, it's never that dynamic. It's just like, I'm livid, period. You know, it's not
animated.
It's girl had girl give us nothing. And it's just a series of Amanda getting frustrated about people around her and yelling. It makes no sense. But again, it's people projecting a lot on Amanda, which I think is part of her appeal. She's existed in so many episodes. Undeniably, she's going to be part of like major moments. Some of the other things I found from Amanda Kimmel's Wiki page, you know, she was the youngest castaway on Heroes versus Villains, which I think, again, is impressive considering that, I mean, there's a huge emotional toll with being on Survivor for so many days. And she is the first finalist to receive a jury vote, but finish in 3rd place. The only people who've done this are Missy Payne and Ryan Ulrich. So, you know, she has...
Legend.
Exactly. Other things I want to mention is I remember hearing someone say that she's kind of like the female Chase Rice of Nicaragua. You know, Chase only gets jury votes from women. Amanda only gets jury votes from men. And I wonder if that has something to do with Amanda and the fact that she's more demure and nice, that she's more palatable to like men, their egos, which again, production, I'm sure also mostly men, project that on Amanda and why she's like such a recurring personality as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, she's very girl next door quoted. But are you ready to wrap up, Amanda, and talk about
Can Amanda win?
Can Amanda win and all of that?
So Mari, I have a question for you. When we mentioned earlier, like, oh, is she just like one speech coach away from winning Survivor? You know, there's plenty of seasons where like the jury's already made up their mind by the time they get to Final Tribal. You know, do you think that had Amanda just pulled out a skill set that we don't think she necessarily possesses, do you think that she could have walked into Tribal in either China or Micro and walked away with the win there? Or do you think that it was pretty baked in already?
I mean, it's tough knowing her competition, but if you go back to me in Micronesia, Parvati doesn't. It's not like Parvati has like an amazing tribal council performance. It's it's even she gets tripped up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's just her like flippantly telling the truth. So there is a chance if she's better prepared. That's the season she got the most votes. That's the season that it was the closest. There's a very good chance that she could have beat Parvati if she was better prepared at Final Tribal Council, I believe.
Yeah, I think Amanda, and the edit definitely tells us that Amanda loses it based on her jury answers in a way, which I don't think we've ever had anyone really kind of depicted in that way. Maybe Nalia kind of gets a little bit of those like tonings, but it is very interesting that Amanda is like, yeah, she's like a fumbler. But I think Amanda, again, she has this, like Amanda, I think could be a decent coach on Survivor in a way, like in giving like some advice to people about how to just generally go far, because I think she has, again, the natural skill set, but I don't know if Amanda can win.
So, you know, I think that potentially, right? But I think you're totally right, Mari, in saying that Amanda did not have the opportunity to reflect off of the China experience and take those lessons in and apply them to Micro, which means that like Heroes versus Villains is really the season that we can consider and say, like, would she have been able to take the lessons and translate it in Heroes versus Villains? Do you think that she plays a different enough game, even though, you know, she does not exactly get close to Final Tribal? Do you think that we see her game in Heroes versus Villains enough to say, like, maybe she did pull some of these lessons away?
I mean, I think the problem there isn't how she adapted her game in Heroes versus Villains. It's about how the people around her were much better equipped to target her. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, from what I remember Heroes versus Villains, I don't remember her like changing her game that much. And again, she's not playing against dopey fans who are going to give up immunity. She's not playing against newbies while she's a newbie herself. She's going up against some of the biggest Survivor legends of all time, and they were on to her. So, I mean, like, yes, Heroes versus Villains could have been her moment, but it would have been a uphill climb for her to get there. I mean, you know, the top, you know, people before her, like who lasted longer than her, were like the cream of the crop. So it's just kind of like, you know, I feel like she would have had to do something drastic in order to make it to the finals of Heroes versus Villains.
And maybe it was stealing the clue from Danielle. That could have been that moment. You know, maybe in an alternate timeline, maybe it's possible. And I think Amanda, you know, she's really in the cog of power in the Heroes tribe for a while. She's really tied, you know, when she loses Suri early on, but she's part of the reason Tom goes. Like she's the reason Stephanie goes. Like she's like really in it. And I think Amanda, one of her greatest strengths is that like her inner side allies never want to turn against her. Parvati, Todd, they're totally comfortable keeping her to the end game where she has the most ability to shank them if she wanted. But she doesn't do the best job, I think, doing relationships outside of that. You know, she's just generally pleasant to them, but she doesn't really build deeply. And so I think that's just a weakness of hers. But yeah,
I think Amanda would have been the perfect ally in Heroes versus Villains. She always makes it to the end and she always loses. Why would you not want to align with her, right? Like that's like the perfect.
But I think if she gets to the end for the third time, I think that's kind of a case also to vote for her, the way that like a winner getting to the end kind of helps you too. And it's like after this many years, Amanda should be able to answer a jury question well. But maybe, okay, no, but this is the better question to ask. Could Amanda Kimmel win with the current jury format instead, which is a little different?
Well, I don't think Amanda Kimmel could win now. I don't think that the way that she plays the game is what modern juries are looking for. You agree, Mari?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. If the question is, can she win now? No. If the question is, could she have won? Possibly.
Yeah. But she does naturally have a bit of that under the radar in the beginning of the game, late game surge, winning the challenges and stuff, showcasing herself. So I feel like and I don't believe she can communicate it, because now the juries are much more white collar and they really care about, I think, specifics in a way. But like, yeah, I think Amanda does. Again, she's like built for Survivor in some ways.
I think it would be really interesting to see Amanda come back today, because we saw her at this very young part of her life, or early 20s, where so many people are still growing. Science shows that her brain was not fully developed yet at that time, right? Coming back as a mom with much more lived experience, I think that would be a really interesting case study for us to understand how she would be able to do. Because for all we know, maybe she was able to get a little distance from Survivor and really understand a lot of these things.
Yeah, it's possible. Any final thoughts on Amanda, Mari?
No, I think we've covered it all.
Yeah, I feel like I've said all my pieces.
You've made your piece.
Yeah.
You got it all off your chest there, Kevin.
I hope so, and I apologize to all of the Amanda Kimmel fans out there. She's not made for me.
I think that's
okay.
And that's okay.
Not everyone is made for everyone.
And I'm glad Amanda's there to give us great seasons and great moments. I think it's hard not to give her credit, but again, it's like she just doesn't do it for me. And I don't know if this conversation has helped it anymore.
I think that Amanda is, for some reason, a little bit of an enigma in Survivor lore. And I think it's because in the grand scheme of things, she's here and she's gone, but she's here so much when she is there. There's just a lot of Amanda at that time. And there's just something about her that makes people feel like they don't totally know who she is. Maybe there's a vulnerability issue where she doesn't necessarily open up that way to people. And I think you could argue she's almost a little bit of a game bot, where she's just so focused on the strategy and talking about it that you don't necessarily get to know her as an individual in a way that other people along the way of Survivor are able to kind of infuse their personality and their personal history with how they talk about the game and what it is that they're trying to do. And I think she's truly a legend because she is associated with some of the greatest seasons of all time. And she's not just associated with them and goes out fourth on one of them. She makes it very far every single time. And I'm glad that we had Amanda. And I really want to see Amanda back at some point in the future. I'd love to see it. A Survivor Legends.
And I think Amanda would not be an unreasonable choice for Survivor Legends, because she is one. I just wish she comes in with a bit more of a person.
You want her to serve.
I want her to serve.
And I believe she will, because I don't think she's allergic to it.
I want the next all returning seasons to be new era versus old era or something like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be really fun.
That'd be fun.
And I think that it would require James Clement to come back, because
they can only come back as a package.
They have to be on every starting trip together.
Yeah. But are we ready to finish this, Nige?
Yeah, I mean, do you have anything else?
No, I don't. Mari, anything going on for you?
Of course. Yes. Matt Scott was on here, and hopefully he told you we're back. The Wrestling Wrap Up is back for our biggest season yet. We are on the road to WrestleMania. This time, literally, because we will be attending WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia this year. So, we are bringing in the biggest guest hosts. We're gonna have at least 3 survivors on our season this year. 3 survivors who love talking about wrestling. So come and check us out over on the Wrestling Wrap Up podcast. You don't even have to watch professional wrestling. We provide you with pictures over on the YouTube page. We provide you with guests who are funny and amazing. And it's me and Matt Scott. Is it like, how could you not love us? So go to robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed in order to subscribe. Again, you can also catch us on the Rob Has a Podcast YouTube page, where I definitely suggest you watch us on there, because we bring up pictures and you want to see our beautiful faces. And of course, every Tuesday, me and Sarah Carradine bring you True Crime Tuesdays to RHAP. Yes, RHAP has a true crime podcast. We do. I don't know if you know, but we do. You'd be surprised how many people say they don't know, but we do. Every Tuesday, we watch like a documentary, a docuseries, a true crime documentary docuseries, and we tell you if it's worth watching. So if you haven't checked that out already, go to robhasawebsite.com/crime feed in order to subscribe. This past week, we just had, it was a Nothing But Netflix crossover with Rob and Chappelle. We talked about Society of the Snow, which is on Netflix, and it's about the Uruguayan rugby team's crash into the mountain, the Andes Mountains. Next week we have next week we are on break, but we have that. We're gonna have a great guest with Jason Reed, and we're gonna be talking about American Nightmare, which just dropped on Netflix, about the Denise Haskins case. So definitely go check us out over on Crime Scene. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Mari Talks Too Much. That's 2 like the number 2, where I post everything else that I'll be doing. That's it.
I've seen a couple of clips from the show about the plane crash in the Andes Mountains. I have a morbid fascination with plane crashes and a fear of flying. Maybe related. I don't know. So I'm sure that's one that's absolutely worth checking out. Thanks, Mark.
Is, yeah.
And Kevin, anything about the remainder of the season you'd like to share?
Well, we're going to have 2 episodes left. We're still booking our guests, but we hope to have episodes on John Carroll of Survivor Marquesas and the Queen, Sandra Diaz Twine. So those 2 episodes will be out, subsequent weeks from this release. And if you're interested in following me, you can follow me on Twitter at Asian Narc, which is short for my Instagram handle at Asian Narcissist.
And Mari, we got where people can follow you, correct?
Yep, you got it. That's all. I'm only on Twitter, so.
Fantastic.
Really.
Well, folks, thanks for joining us. Mari, so glad we were able to have you back for another episode of You Thought You Knew. And we hope to see you all again next time. Thanks.
Bye.